All right. Happy Monday. I hope you guys started off the week well. Got, I feel like a lot of people just take this week off, especially the time between Christmas and New Year's. Makes it hard to get any work done. People don't want to respond to their emails from vacation, which is good, right? Like, I get that. But I will say people that take this time to really plan out the next year and execute on that and have a vision for it, I think you'll be well served if you do that. I think that there are a lot of people, like I said, that kind of sleep on that opportunity at this time of the year and just kind of skate by and don't really use it to the way that it could be. So hopefully you are putting together your goals for 2025. I don't like to call them New Year's resolutions. I'm not into that. I feel like a resolution or that just it has a stigma of people not sticking to it. So for me, I just kind of reset and look at an annual goal and I write things down. I talked about this with the mastermind earlier today, but if you write something down, just writing it down, you are 62% more likely to execute on that over the year. If you look back at it from a year from now, just because you wrote it down one time. If you look at it almost every single day and it's a goal and it's something that you're watching and maintaining focus on, it's almost inevitable that it will happen, right? Because you're reminding yourself, you're holding yourself accountable to it. So whether it's losing weight or starting that business or making a certain amount of money or, changing your relationships, whatever it is, if you are looking at it every single day, and even if you're writing it down every single morning, people talk about affirmations, again, kind of woo-woo, but I will say anything that you are always focusing on, you're going to see the opportunity to execute on that. So, whatever that is for you this year in 2025, I like to have a theme for the year, along with, sub goals in each category of my life, self-development, self-improvement, kind of go hand in hand, spiritual, relationships, my business, financial, my health, all those things I keep an eye on. And sometimes you have to know that certain things are going to take a back seat to other things. Here in the last 3 years for me, I spent a lot of time as a bodybuilder. And during that time, health was the main focus. It's literally all I thought about all day long. Was eating my meals, training, taking my supplements, pharmaceuticals, other things to compete at a high level. And it was very regimented and disciplined. And now I'm not anywhere near the level of discipline that I was, but I still work out, 4 or 5 times a week with weights. I still do cardio at least 4 or 5 times a week, walking, try to get, somewhere north of at least 5,000 steps a day. Sometimes I get there, sometimes I don't. I'd like to be at 10,000. That's my goal. One of my goals for this year is to average 10,000 steps per day in 2025. So that's going to require me to take some calls while I'm walking. I just got to balance things, right? And so again, that's kind of what I'm saying. If you have an extreme focus in one area of your life here in 2025, because that's what really needs improvement, some other things are going to suffer because you're not going to have the bandwidth to focus on everything at once. People talk about balance. I think that's bullshit. Excuse my French. But I really don't think, balance comes after, right? Like after you've made the money, after you've got an incredible body, after your relationships are great, you can keep those plates spinning, but to get that up spinning really quickly, it requires a lot of focus for an extended period of time. And you kind of knock those down one at a time while you're maintaining other things. So anyway, I just wanted to start that off. We got the New Year background for you guys for Digital Ascension Group. I'm going to toast you guys. Also, cool accomplishment for me and my co-founder of the mastermind, Max Avery. We did launch a book just a few days ago. Wealth in Numbers. If you guys want to go check it out and leave it a review, download it. It is free for 2 more days on Kindle. You can just Google Wealth in Numbers and then my name, Jake Claver or Max Avery. It should come up. And again, you can download it for free there on Kindle. We got like 300 something downloads. It's number 1 for real estate right now, number 2 in like the financial space. So pretty cool to launch and then have that, drive behind it. And anything that you guys could do would be greatly appreciated. Go read it. Let me know what you guys think. It's about how to syndicate private investments. We do that in our mastermind group. Have for 2 years now. We've done, 16 successful private investments over the last 2 years here through that group. And we run 506B deals in there. They're all Reg D here in the U.S. Allow people that are sophisticated investors to participate on those deals with us. You qualify as sophisticated by being part of the group because we provide financial education and business resources there that allow you to understand the risks associated with those investments. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe you don't quite meet that accreditation requirement here in the U.S. of over $1 million worth of net worth outside your primary residence. Can't count the equity in your home. And if you don't make more than $200,000, if you're single, $300,000, if you're married, those are the things that qualify you as accredited here in the U.S. But we want to provide opportunities for people that, have excess income that they want to put to work. And so that's why we run those deals there in that group. If you are interested in being part of the group, we are running here for just a couple more days, I think, the special for 1 month free. If you want to go check it out at mastermind.beyondbroke.com. It's up here. There you go, in the banner, beyondbroke.com. It's Beyond Broke, just like that spelled there. All capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the mastermind. Once XRP gets beyond $10, which I think will happen very quickly in the very near future, we are going to lock that down for 30 days and be very scrupulous about who we allow into the group on the other side of that, and the price to be part of the group. Each one of the tiers is going to go up 10x what it currently costs. So we have social membership, which is $25 a month. We try to provide way more value than any other group I've ever been a part of, which I've paid thousands of dollars to be a part of other masterminds. And I feel like we do a good job of providing at least the equivalent amount of value, or I actually believe it's a lot more than the majority of those groups. So again, we'd love to have you guys in there. If that's something you're interested in, just go connect with me on LinkedIn is our current vetting process. And then beyond that, you can join the group for free using that code. Again, that's Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like month. So again, just kind of wanted to start the thing off, talking about goals. Wednesday night this week is going to be New Year's Eve. I will be out. Well, maybe it'll be New Year's Day. We'll probably run one down New Year's Day this week on Wednesday. Tomorrow night's New Year's Eve, and we are going to go out and dance a little bit. So anyway, without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into the questions here. We got TikTok, we got YouTube, we got X. If you guys have any interest in mitigating taxes, estate planning, what that looks like for digital assets, different, digital assets you might have questions around, long-term price prediction, how to, use your wealth once you have it. All those questions are fair game in the comments tonight. So go ahead and hop into it. First one here, Old Man of XRP. Hey, brother. He says, hey, Jake, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, sir. If President Trump says no capital gains on XRP, will there still be a need for safe harbor? If safe harbor just for 2024 and prior, thank you. So I'm as hopeful as you are that Trump will make any domestic domiciled crypto company, their digital asset that they utilize, free of capital gains. You're still going to need to know your basis just for your own accounting later on, irrespective of if there is tax implications associated with the sale of your assets. The safe harbor, what it does is it allows you to select a global allocation for your assets. So let's say you've got, a guy pointed out this the other day on a tweet. I thought it was a good example. He said, what if I bought one Bitcoin at $100 and another Bitcoin at $100,000? And I move those into the same wallet. Okay. The cost basis for a global cost basis for that wallet would now be $50,050. So the Bitcoin that you bought at $100 using FIFO, when you go to sell it, now your cost basis is $50,050, which is a big bump from where it was at $100, right? Now, the other token, that you bought at 100 is now down a lot from its cost basis of 100,000. So it's kind of a give and take. But if you're going to have to be forced to be using FIFO moving forward, which you are, first in, first out is how the accounting will go. You can't use HIFO or LIFO or some of the other mechanisms by which people have been trying to, shuffle the numbers around creatively. So it's of a benefit, especially if you have stuff that you bought a long time ago that you want to raise the basis on. You don't know what's going to happen. I would love for, again, Trump to follow through on that and to make those tax-free. And I do think that makes sense for a lot of the use case for XRP, XLM, HBAR, Algorand, and some of the other assets. XDC is not domiciled here in the U.S., so that won't be the case for that asset, irrespective. I've been to their offices in Dubai. We were there, earlier this year in February. So that is a tool in Ritesh, and they're domiciled there in Dubai. So they wouldn't be, XDC would not get that privilege here in the US. But the rest of those assets I just mentioned would, and I am hopeful for it, but rather safe than sorry. And if the IRS is going to give you a safe harbor period to basically say, hey, here's the backstop, we're not going to look past this. Whatever you say is the basis is kind of what we're going to go off of. It can't be ridiculous, okay? So don't say your basis for XRP is $5. It's not going to work. It's never been $5. It's got to be pretty close, to an average of what you bought it at. But you can make it, a global allocation, and that makes it super easy for the accounting moving forward when you do sell, irrespective of taxes. Thank you, Marsha, for the super chat. I don't see a question on here, but I do appreciate the super chat. Xavier says, hope you had an awesome Christmas. I did. Thank you. Appreciate you. And hopefully you did too. He says, bright and prosperous New Year for you and the family. Thank you. Aaron Grinhoss or Clinton Donnelly when filing taxes in Canada? Aaron Grinhoss, hands down. Clinton's U.S. Clinton deals with people here in the U.S. He's domiciled in Portugal. He deals with a lot of international clients that do have citizenship here in the U.S. But he's probably okay with Canadian taxes, but his specialty is U.S. tax code. Whereas Aaron Grinhoss, who I've interviewed on the channel, if you guys want to go, just Google Jake and Aaron Grinhoss. It'll come up. He can explain some of the intricacies of Canadian tax laws around digital assets and the estate planning there. He's great when it comes to that, and that's who I would recommend. He's also on the council. Like there's a blockchain council there for professionals in different, verticals, estate planning, taxes, wealth management, all that stuff. And he's the head of that council. So he knows everybody. If he can't do it, he's going to know the person that can. Marsha. Okay. So here's her question after the super chat. Thank you. She says, I have two questions. Is anyone having trouble opening their Link2 app? I've tried from the Apple Store and it won't open. I signed up twice for the mastermind by accident and fix it. Just email us on the mastermind deal, info@beyondbroke.com, and we'll get you fixed up there, Marsha. Not sure on Link2. I have not been on that platform in a long time. Again, we run our own private deals in the group for a lot of the same stuff that you could purchase on Link2, but for about half the price because we go out and we source it directly. We're not buying it and then selling it to you with a markup, which... Not knocking their business model. They make a lot of money. That's just not how we run things. So, I don't use their app and I'm not familiar if it's down or not. And again, just email us and we're happy to get you fixed there on the mastermind. Atlantic Living. I hope you had a great Christmas. You too. Your 3 to 4 digits XRP and 25 prediction has a lot excited. Thank you for unwavering belief and conviction. What prevents people from selling soon? Or that prevents people from selling too soon. Thank you for that. And I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than people anticipate. We're really close here with Japan. Global geopolitics and global economics are looking not good. not good at all. There's a lot of flashing signs right now that we are headed for a credit crisis imminently, like within the next few days if they don't raise the debt ceiling. Just off in the ether here. Also, we did have an X solar flare today that should hit the Earth sometime tomorrow. I don't know if that's just going to cause auroras or internet blackouts or what it's going to be, but sure would be interesting if they work their magic and move things along while there was no access to the internet. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. We'll see what's going to happen. I scratched the link to questions. They got it fixed now. Good deal. Todd, how are you, sir? He said, thank you. And all the fantastic members of the Beyond Broke Mastermind for being so positive and helpful. What is your outlook for January in relationship to the reverse carry trade? 2025 will be awesome. I agree, Todd. Thank you again for the super chat and for the kind words about the mastermind. I would agree. I think everybody there super proud of the culture that's there. And it's been cool that, I don't know, like when you bring in the right people that resonate with you, they're on the right frequency. They have aligned, core values and principles, and they're really good people. And you kind of repel the people that don't make sense. Just been really blessed by that. So I'm glad to have you in there. And, I think you're definitely in line with those things. He's asked about the reverse carry trade. So like I mentioned before, the BOJ put out just yesterday or a couple days ago that this is not a good point for the reverse carry trade. You've seen markets start to sell off in certain sectors. You saw somebody buy up a bunch of U.S. debt that had been dumped on the market. Earlier today, I was watching Greg Manarino. I don't know if you guys watch him or not, but he is one of the people that I respect. He's hey, look, I'll say this, Peter Schiff and Mike Maloney and a lot of other people out there, George Gammon, all these guys are brilliant, and they've been crying wolf for a long time. Robert Kiyosaki is in the same boat. I met Robert, 2 years ago with the Super Bowl. I have a lot of respect for those guys. And again, timing hasn't been particularly impeccable. Michael Gade is also in that group. Anyway, there's a lot of people that I follow when it comes to economists and people that I respect their opinion on. And I think all of them would agree that they've been able to carry this on a lot longer than they anticipated. But I do think we're at the end of the road here. Like within the next week, I think that there could be some significant movement on the reverse carry trade. You've got Tether, which was delisted today. A lot of people speculated that would cause problems. It's not completely delisted until July next year. There's just a lot of people that went ahead and got compliant as of today in Europe. But yeah, Micah, or Mika, whatever you want to say, has some pretty strong legislation against Tether. On the reverse carry trade front, I think that you're going to see the Bank of Japan have to raise interest rates. Let me see here. We are on the reverse carry trade, currently sitting at, and I say the reverse carry trade, the chart that I look at is the yen versus the USD on TradingView. They have pushed it down. They did sell off treasuries or sell dollars for yen. The BOJ did this in order to push it back down to 156. So there's 156 yen per US dollar is what it's currently trading at. When we get back above 158, 159, that's cause for a lot of concern for them. They've had a lot of inflation in a very short period of time, and they need to do something to combat that. We'll see, what shakes out, but I think a lot of that's, here in January, like you mentioned. Atlantic Living says, do you believe the lawsuit continues because the banks are still not ready? Do you ever chat with senior leaders in the banking industry? Do they share with you that XRP will be used? Look at the investors in this company. We have spoken with many banks in the time that I've been in the space. They have built a lot of infrastructure and are ready to use digital assets as soon as there's regulation. So as soon as they're clear on what the tax rules are and what the assets are, they're ready to go. Like, the infrastructure is built. It's been built. They've, a lot of players were ready to go in 22, and then FTX and Voyager and Celsius happened. I think on the other side of regulation, you're going to see a lot of these exchanges just get bought up by investment banks. As far as using XRP goes, I can't speak exactly to what you want me to say, but based on the conversations I have had with people, feel strongly that they will use it. Alex says, thanks for the content. When do you think XRP domino theory will begin to unfold? Still watching Japan. Watching oil, watching Japan. There could potentially be some conflict that escalates in the Middle East that forces Japan's hand to raise interest rates. That was a theory, that was put out by I can see his face, Jim Rickards, early, and he talked to the government here in the U.S. about it in 2012 and 2014. There's a video where he talks about the exact scenario playing out. I kind of add on to that with Tether and Bitcoin and some of the implications that that'll have. But waiting for them to raise interest rates. As soon as you see, markets start to sell off in a frenzy, like we did back in August, I think that could have been, they kind of kicked the can just a little bit further, because I think a few more people weren't quite ready at that point. But I think everybody's ready to go here at the end of 24. So I don't think it'll be that much longer. Bluebird Chicken 41 says, do you believe when the XRP price starts to go up significantly that things will go fast? Example, first to 100 and then soon after to 200 and so on, short breaks, or instead long time between? I think you got your long time in between here the last month. With the little run up that we had, I think that was just kind of like wink, wink, here we go type thing. And when the next move starts, once there's enough liquidity in the asset to start moving value at scale for Swift or the back end of the stock market or FX or commodities, there's steps here. And as soon as there's $100 worth of liquidity in XRP, it can move a lot of those markets and settle that. And then that'll be the floor, right? And then I think it'll continue higher based on what people are going to use it for. There was a lady on here. Was it Saturday? No, we got on TikTok on Sunday and just sat down and chopped it up with you guys. She asked about market cap for XRP and how, so as an example, there was a gentleman that I watched and he was like, XRP is at $150 billion market cap. If it were to go higher than here, you're not going to make that much money. It can't go that much higher. And people just don't understand, and that's okay. I get it. Like, if you had told somebody 10 years ago that there was going to be $1 trillion company, they'd have looked at you squirrely, and especially 20 years ago. But now we have multiple, right? And that's a market cap of the company. And what that is its total outstanding shares and the price at which those are trading for. Okay. So that's a liquid market. You can take them to the market and sell your shares to somebody else that's willing to purchase them at whatever strike price you want to sell them for. It's very different, the valuation on a company, which, again, there's a lot of companies that are extremely overvalued. Warren Buffett's made his billions of dollars over his life buying fairly priced or undervalued companies and then sitting on them and selling them when he thinks they're overvalued to be able to buy back when they're fairly valued again. Ben Graham, value investor. So, and if you guys, our CIO wrote this book, Warren Buffett in the Web3 World. It's a snackable guide to digital assets. You can sit on the toilet, just read a couple of things every once in a while. It's a good bathroom read. Anyway, Matt Schneider, our CIO, good guy. Sorry, side tangent. So a company is a lot different than a protocol or a network. And it would be silly to value both of them using the same metric. I think there will become something else that people value networks by on the other side of price appreciation utility of some of these assets. So, because when you look at the market cap of a network that's moving value at scale globally, it's going to seem astronomical, like in the quadrillions of dollars, especially if there's 100 billion outstanding XRP and there's $1,000 XRP, like $1 quadrillion. That seems absurd, right? Because if it was 100, well, I guess it'd be 100 trillion, $100 trillion market cap at $1,000. Absurd, right? And as it continues to go up in value, as more value moves over the network and transactions are settled, that'll continue to escalate, which again will be difficult for people to comprehend. So on that, I'm just saying, like, a protocol, you might look at the internet protocol, right? Imagine how many emails are sent per day. And if each one of those was settling just $1, like how much volume would be moving over that network? That's the lens at which I look at digital assets through. I don't look at it through the lens of a company. There's companies that are using the technology, but the networks themselves are decentralized. They're not controlled by one main party. Some networks are, right? There's going to be private permissioned networks that operate that way. But the XRPL, Hyperledger, Algorand's network, Hedera Hashgraph, there are hundreds of people that, again, are running validators or nodes on those networks. So that's the way that I think about that. Go ahead and scroll down here. We got a few more people watching than we did earlier on when I mentioned this. So again, I'll just cheers you guys. Happy New Year and appreciate y'all. We did what I'm celebrating this New Year is we've launched our book, Wealth in Numbers. You guys can see it up here at the top. You can download it for free on Amazon until January 2nd. If you guys want to go check it out, it's also on Kindle. You just Google Wealth in Numbers, my name, Jake Claver, or the main author of it, which is Max Avery. We've been working on that book all year long. It's about how to syndicate deals and run private deals here in the U.S. legally, and all the things that are required to do that. It's not a walk in the park, and that's also why we're developing software that allows people to do that super easily with Syndicately. So, and that'll be out here in just a few weeks. We will be in beta and off to the races with that product, which I'm also very excited about. We've got Eric. He says, good evening. Good evening, sir. What would need to happen for stock market to back-end settlement on the XRP ledger? Could it happen as an effect of the domino theory and therefore maybe taking place soon? Yes. Just encourage you to just Google this company. I'd encourage you to go look up Project Ion, which was developed with R3 and the DTCC. It was finalized back in 2022. So R3 Corda is a private permissioned network that is controlled by centralized parties. And that's what banks and institutions want. Enterprises also. They don't necessarily want other parties having control or domain over their network or transactions. They need interoperability, and that's why you need these public blockchains that people trust and multiple people run validators on to settle transactions between two parties. So I don't know if you were around super early on in the internet, but if I had an email address at AOL and I wanted to send you an email at Yahoo, we couldn't do that early on. The internet protocol, which is what allows interoperability between websites and all that stuff, and then the email protocol, which allows interoperability between the email servers to be able to settle that data packet between those two parties, came later, right? And so that's what the internet of value is. That's what a lot of these assets provide that are on these public networks. So if you have siloed ecosystems that need to settle and transact between multiple parties, so clearinghouses and brokers, and the individual that's purchasing the stock through the broker, you would need a trusted network to be able to settle those transactions through, even though each one of those parties might run an independent ecosystem that they provided to their clients. So yeah, there's definitely a circumstance in which XRP could be used as the settlement layer for those transactions. And again, I think that's already been developed and ready to go whenever it's needed in a liquidity crisis. We moved to T+1 on May 28th this year. So now, all of the, and it had the capability to do T+0 utilizing a digital asset if there's regulatory clarity and enough liquidity in the network or asset. So yes, is the short answer. After the long-winded answer to your question, the answer is yes. JL, do you know anything about RLUSD to T-bills to earn yield? Any good platform for this? It sounds like Uphold is going to allow you to earn 5% on your RLUSD if you hold it with them, and they have a MasterCard that you can spend it with. So that's a pretty good deal. I think that there's going to be a lot of stable coins on the other side of price appreciation that are issued on the network and even during price appreciation. PayPal, Bank of America, JP Morgan, they have JPM coin. Google, Meta, Amazon. I think there's going to be a lot of parties that issue stable coins and buy up a bunch of T-bills and are willing to pay a good yield to the people that are holding that token and will act as a bank, right? FinTech. So yeah, I think Uphold here in the short term is the best solution that I've heard of for RLUSD in particular to earn yield and get exposure like you're asking. I'm trying to see if I missed anything over here. On TikTok, Ripple Labs was trademarked in 1999. This has been planned for years. I would agree. I definitely agree with that statement. Let's see here. A lot of really good questions. Appreciate you guys here in the chat tonight. Make sure I'm not missing any super chats. I got Todd and Marcia. Off the Grid says, starting silver stacking too late, XRP to the moon. Silver is interesting to me. I have a decent allocation to silver. So the way that I have my exposure to gold and silver is through my emergency fund. Okay. So I have somewhere between 3 and 6 months worth of expenses that I need to live my life. But I don't keep it in a bank account because I don't trust banks. Just enough there for me to, spend what I need to and do what I need to for my businesses and myself. The rest of it goes into other assets that I believe are going to appreciate and are a better store of wealth than the US dollar. So silver is definitely a portion of that. I actually have a higher allocation to gold than I do silver. Which is counterintuitive. There's a lot of people out there that will tell you silver's going to the moon, it's going to $500, da 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 da. There's a lot of implications for that if that is to be the case, right? I understand that the gold to silver ratio is way out of whack. It should revert to the mean, which is close to like 40 to 1. You currently got gold at somewhere around $3,000. So let's say it was at $4,000. That's $100 silver. That's kind of what makes sense. A $75 silver makes sense right now at that ratio, which is up, a double from where it currently sits. I could see that happening. Yeah. But for it to go to triple digits, there's just so many things that are manufactured with silver. And JP Morgan, holding the amount that they do and spoofing the market that they do, like they do. And obviously they've been caught and they still do it. There's just too much economic interest for phone manufacturers and other people that produce electrical equipment to continue to use that item in particular, that commodity in particular, as long as the price is kept where it's at, that allows them to operate in a very profitable fashion. And if that price were to escalate substantially, it would come after the introduction of something else that could replace it or maybe even do a better job that they could buy cheaper. We ran a deal in the mastermind for a graphene company Looking at a lot of other things like alternatives in that capacity for energy and substrates that allow you to produce things cheaper. Graphene has been historically extremely expensive to produce, but would provide a better conductor than silver. And if you could drive costs down to something lower than what it costs for silver, then it would be a good replacement. And then silver could be moved, to a monetary metal, and price could be allowed to escalate. So I don't know what that's going to be. There needs to be a replacement in place before they make that transition and allow that price to escalate like a lot of people want to. I do think that it is a good place to store your wealth, but I don't think the ROI on it's not going to be as crazy as it was back in the 80s when the Hunt brothers cornered the market. So, I watch Andy Schectman and all those guys, right? Like, I think they're all very intelligent. But I also am a realist, and I watch other people that have deep understanding and expertise across other industries and the impact that would have for certain metals for things to escalate. And so that's how I put together my thesis around stuff. Am I right? Who knows? I don't have a crystal ball either, right? And I know a lot of people that hold a substantial amount of silver and gold, and I hope that they make a lot of money. I don't want to be right that it's not going to go to the moon. If there is an economic collapse, it's a great place to be holding your wealth, physical, in your home or in a vault or somewhere where you can access it, not paper, silver, or gold. So COMEX, I think, that's going to be a problem at some point. They've been able to continue to skirt that along. Basel III is going to have some pretty significant implications for that. So anyway, I could ramble on about that for a long time, but my thesis is, you might get a double out of silver from here. Same thing out of gold, might get a double, but that's only if the US dollar collapses on itself. And I really don't think that's going to happen. I think they are going to shore it up with gold. And, when they do that, they don't have the gold that you think they have, but they do have enough gold to do it. And, the gold still sits at $42 an ounce on the Fed's balance sheet. The U.S., I still believe, even though Russia and China have accumulated hundreds of thousands of tons of gold over the last couple of years between the two of them, I think the U.S. still has more gold than either one of those nations. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on precious metals. Again, I'm probably going to get some hate for that. That's okay. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope people that are buying precious metals make a lot of money. I do have an allocation to it, but again, it's not my main investment. It's just my emergency fund, and that's what I think makes sense for precious metals. See if I've got any other super chats here that I need to get to. Honest Aim, thank you, sir. He says, thanks for all you do in the mastermind. Thank you. I'll be in town on Friday. I need to get with you. So ping me, text me, and remind me on Friday, and we'll set a time. Joining late, but new listeners may not know of the safe harbor. If you agree, please review for listeners. Yeah, so we asked this early on, but we do have a lot more people on here than we did earlier. So if you do have an investment in crypto, right, and maybe you've bought things over the last 3, 4, or 5 years, and you have them spread out across different wallets, and you haven't really sold anything yet, or maybe you have done a whole bunch of crazy transactions, and you can't really figure out your cost basis, okay? Maybe you ran them through, some snipe bots and trading bots and all this other, staking, and you got airdrops, and you got a bunch of stuff, right? And it's complicated, and you don't want to have to do the accounting on it, okay? Try to get close, but the safe harbor allows you to set your basis as a global basis for your wallets. You're going to want to fill out a form for each entity that you have. So if you just have stuff in your individual name, if it's less than $50,000, that's probably fine. But if it's more than that, I would look at an LLC. We provide those through Digital Ascension Group, digitalfamilyoffice.io. You can put in the code 50OFF DAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC, in the checkout and get 50% off. We normally charge $3,000 for it, but it's $1,500. You get everything that you want, and we do maintain it for you on an annual basis. So there's that. But yeah, you need to fill out the safe harbor form for each entity that you have: individual, trust, LLC, foundation, whatever you're holding your digital assets in. And that's going to designate a global cost basis. So, I pointed this out earlier, but if you bought Bitcoin at $100 and you bought Bitcoin at $100,000 and you put those two in the same wallet, your cost basis is now $50,050 for the 2 Bitcoin. And if you go to sell the first Bitcoin, because you have to use FIFO, first in, first out, your cost basis on that Bitcoin is going to be $50,050 instead of $100, which is a substantial step up and would mitigate a lot of the capital gains that you would owe when you went to sell that. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful for people. If you do need the form, you can email us. It's just info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and we will, send you the form. You don't have to file it with the IRS. There's a lot of different CPAs that are putting out similar forms out there. Clinton Donnelly has one if you want to go check that out at Crypto Tax Audit. I think his is a bit more nuanced and a little more complicated than I think it needs to be. Clinton's are always very thorough, though. So I'll give him that. I've had him on the show, and I've been on his show multiple times. Sharp guy. But yeah, I would just get that done before the end of the year. And you do need to take a snapshot picture of all the wallets and how many assets are in them on December 31st, tomorrow, 2024, so that, your global basis is, you're saying it's for these assets on this date. I also would put a spreadsheet together. So 3 things: sign the form, take the photo, and then the last thing is you need a spreadsheet of all your wallets that you're going to take a picture of and that you want to allocate a global basis to, with the wallet address, the asset that's in it, and the cost basis that you're going to associate to it. And it needs to be close, okay? Like, it doesn't have to be exact, because again, there's stuff in the past that's going to be hard to calculate. If you could put it in Coinly or Coin Tracker and get something close, do it. But after that, you'll be able to give like an average cost basis to all your wallets, and you'll get a pretty big step up if you did buy things. Let's say you bought stuff back in 2020 at the bottom of the market, or you bought stuff back in 2017 before it ran up and you haven't sold it yet. Like, you could get a big step up in basis if you continue to dollar cost average over the past couple years on those original assets that you purchased. So thank you, Honest Aim, for pointing that out, and wish you well, and we'll see you on Friday. Michael Anthony says, bought with a dividend of 35 cents, which under $10.50 is a steal, being oversold with book value of $18.42 and upgrade to $12 in the last week. That's great. Yeah. So I think I've seen this guy on Twitter. I think I actually follow you. There's a lot of really good stocks out there, right? I think that those, once people have generated a lot of wealth, I think that those are definitely things that you should be looking at. I don't think anybody is, that's probably the wrong thing to say. You could get wealthy investing in the stock market. I've seen people do it. However, the time horizon that you're going to be doing that on is significantly longer than it would be in digital assets if you know which ones to invest in. But I guess that's the same with anything, right? Like private equity, like it's a gamble, it's high risk, high reward. Stocks are far less risky. And, if you're looking for cash flow and a good, safe way to store and grow your wealth over time, it makes a lot of sense. So for the, I can't give you financial advice. I think this gentleman is actually certified as a CFA or has a CFP, one of the two. Anyway, he talks about this stock here. He's probably not your financial advisor, but might look at it. Let's see here. Any more super chats that I'm missing before I go back here? Let's see, scroll on down, see if I missed anything. Here we go. We got Carrie Bragg. They say, how are you? How much XRP do I need that you would recommend getting an LLC? Also, do you have any thoughts on Telcoin? Love your videos. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. So right now, if you had 25,000 XRP, you're around $50,000 in current value. I think that's when it starts to make sense to put them inside of an LLC, kind of as like a. Always look at everything as a cost to benefit, right? So if you're going to spend $1,500 on an LLC, you could buy more digital assets with that. But having it in an LLC is going to give you the cost benefit of being able to mitigate taxes on the other side of price appreciation. If you don't think there's going to be any taxes on XRP and you still plan on selling some, there's still other reasons that you would move it into an LLC. Like the gift tax threshold here in the US is 16 or 13.6 million per person. So you get 27.22 million between you and your spouse that you can move into a trust with no tax implications. Anything beyond that amount is going to be 40%. If it's in an LLC, you can gift small pieces of equity. So don't do this when you first start it. Have a single member LLC, and then you're not going to have a step up in basis and no tax implications. But on the other side of price appreciation, you can gift small pieces of equity to your children or your brother or your brother-in-law or a friend or somebody you're going to take care of anyway. And you can get a huge reduction, 25 to 30% in the valuation of the LLC. So let's say you had 25,000 XRP. XRP goes to $200. You got $50 million. Okay. Is that right? 5 million. We need $2,000 XRP. Okay. Something crazy happened. And you got 50 mil. All right. So now you need to be able to get a portion of that into the trust. And if it's already in an LLC, you're going to be able to, do what I just said and get a reduction on that. So now it's only worth 40 mil, and you can move, 3/4 of it into a trust with no tax implications. That's probably about the ratio that a lot of people, it is about the ratio that a lot of people that work with us keep, like 70-30, 60-40, 75-25 assets in the trust versus assets in the LLC. And then you can pass the taxes from the trust to the LLC and pay them that way and kind of filter stuff into the trust over time. Anyway, that's the price, so current value, $2. If you had 25,000 XRP, I think it makes sense to start looking at an LLC. If you're married, maybe it's a bit more than that, right? Because you got to have a higher gift tax threshold. So maybe it's around 40,000 XRP, 30 or 40,000 XRP before you start looking at it. When it starts to make sense as cost to benefit. And then on Telcoin, I think Telcoin is really interesting. I think a lot of these social media platforms are going to continue to launch some type of payment method within their ecosystem and have their own token. I think that Telcoin will probably get backed by U.S. Treasuries and get compliant. It will Doge end up the payment method for X. Is Libra or Diem ever going to launch for Meta? I think that there's a lot of things that are kind of outstanding until we get regulations. But on the other side of stablecoin regulations, I think that every single social media platform will have some type of currency that you're able to use on that platform to send payments with or hold on there, and they'll incentivize you to do it because you'll be earning yield or get other benefits. It'll be kind of like credit cards are now. They'll give you certain perks or stuff like travel points or airline miles or other things to incentivize you to hold their stablecoin versus somebody else's. So that's my 2 cents on it anyway. We'll see if I am right. That makes, if I was somebody that was issuing a stablecoin, that's what I would do. So thank you for the super chat again and the great question. Scroll on down. We have a few more here. We got Mark Hayes. Hey man. Is there any disclosure for the unit price of XRP when Ripple sells from escrow every month? Is it spot or is price somehow predetermined? So there's a good question. They have some pre-allocated contracts where they promised people, XRP at 3/100 of a penny. That's what the lawsuit with R3 was over, and why they ended up settling for 1.04 billion XRP. Greg Kidd had an option on XRP at 3/100 of a penny for 1 billion XRP. I don't know if he ever executed that or what came of that. So I don't know, but I know a portion of it does end up on the spot market every month. And they do use that to fund their business, right? So Ripple does sell XRP. That's part of their business model. That's how they've got a huge cash position, and they've funded themselves up to this point. without the adoption of, these digital assets and these networks. And people can get mad about that. Like, I understand why people would be upset on that. It doesn't really upset me because it's a means to an end. Like, I see what they're doing in order to get where they need to go. But it does suppress price and hold price stability on the market, which is frustrating for people that hold it if you are looking for it to go up in value and that's what you're using to generate wealth for yourself. But I think you're still going to get that. I think it's just going to be one big whack all at one time instead of a gradual rise like you've seen in Solana and some of these other things. So to answer your question, it's both. They have some pre-allocated contracts with predetermined prices, and I think they also sell on the spot market as well. And thank you. Great question. I'm sure that there's other people that also have that question. CR with the super chat, but no question. Thank you, sir. Maybe you ask one further down and I will get to it. But thank you either way. Here he is. I could not figure out how to add my comment to the super chat. Well, you can comment and I will answer it. I will find it for you. He says, try Tangem. Let's see here. Anybody else on the super chat before I run back up? All right, we'll run it back up here and get into some other questions. Do we have any over here on TikTok? News says XDC at 7 cents could hit $3 this bull run. Crypto Hulk has awesome outlook on XDC. I'm the same. I think that that's a very reasonable price prediction for XDC, especially if it saw some utility of that network and trade finance and those flows. This person says sell XRP at 4 a.m. It will be 1.8. Well, maybe. I don't know. I would be buying at 1.8. I wouldn't be selling at 1.8. Yeah, I think XDC could definitely go to that value. Again, especially if you had utility and adoption for trade finance. We met Andre Casterman last year at XDC Austin, and it was great. Got to listen to him, talk about his standard for messaging and how they built that layer out for receivables and all of the other bill of lading and everything else that's involved with that process. It's pretty intricate, and he was very thorough. A lot of people fell asleep. I was intrigued. I thought it was cool. But you need all that in place before you can have instant settlement for stuff and smart contracts and all the other things that kind of would be the cool stuff that everybody wants, all the sexy stuff. So, again, excited to see that. Again, XDC is not a native asset to the US. Atul and Ritesh are there in Dubai. And so, there's no capital gains tax on it. But here in the US, I don't know if that'll be the case or not. We have Emilio, sorry. It's bad. I'm sorry. Hey, Jake, I'm curious, once you put your assets into custody with Anchorage, what would the fees and service look like? Yeah, so Digital Wealth Partners is the company, the registered RIA, Registered Investment Advisor. It's actually an IA investment advisory group. And we have RIAs that work for us that are registered investment advisors that have their Series 65 or they have their 7 and 66. Fees. So we have $1,000 onboarding fee. It sets up the account, does everything that you need to for that. Beyond that, there's a 2% management fee for anything less than 5 million. 5 million to 10 million, it drops to 50 basis points or 0.5%. And then beyond 10 million, it's only 40 basis points or 40% of 1% of whatever assets are there. We don't really make any money at those rates. It's just enough to keep the lights on and pay the people and deal with the compliance and cover all the fees for Anchorage and everything else. So, our threshold or minimum is $500,000 in current value. On a monthly cost, that's somewhere around $800 is the current cost in order for us to provide all the services that we do, which is the financial advice along with the custody. We should have yield generating opportunities for the assets held in custody by mid-January. We're working on that with multiple partners right now and finalizing those agreements based on the conversation I had with my attorney this morning. Should be good to go. He's green-lighted them. So we should finalize those things this week and hopefully have everything in place to be able to generate yield for our clients mid-January. and that'll be more than enough to cover any fees that we're charging for the AUM fee. Should be somewhere between 6 and 10% per year, based on the current partners that we're working with. So again, and you can fund that in fiat. We have a lot of people that do not want to sell their digital assets on a monthly basis in order to cover the fees, which I'm in the same boat. I'm paying the fees too. So with that, that's what the cost looks like. And then as assets escalate in value, obviously costs, it's a percentage of the assets under management there. The firm itself does not generate any other profit outside of that until we generate you at least 8% on your assets. We cannot charge you any performance fees until your assets are north of 1.1 million. So we, if you had $500,000 and we put it to work and XRP or the other assets don't appreciate at all, and you earn 100% with us on the year, we still can't take any fees on any of that, because now you have $1 million, which is not over the threshold of 1.1. So that's why we charge 2%, because have to in order to just make ends meet. But on the other side of 8%, we do take a small cut, which is we go 80-20 on anything more than 8%. So not the first 8%, you get all of that. There's no catch up. It's a pref paid to the investor with no catch up hurdle rate. And then between 8 and 20%, we go 80-20. So if we make you 15%, we're taking 20% of the next 7% after the 8, which ends up being like 1.5% of whatever we generate you. And then beyond 20%, if we have just to knock it out of the park, crush it for you, we go 50-50 on anything above the 20%. And this doesn't count the appreciation of your assets that you bring us, just to be clear on that. So you invested in these digital assets. We didn't tell you to do that. We're not entitled to any of the gains on the digital assets. The only thing that Digital Wealth Partners makes money on is advised action. So if they're taking those assets with that value and putting them to work somewhere and generating a yield, they get a piece of that. They, at no time do they ever get a part of the appreciation on the assets that you brought to the firm. So I've tried to put this together in a way that, like, I wanted to be a client. I tried to make sure that it was as beneficial for the client as possible, while we could still tread water and make enough money to get by until stuff really goes. So hopefully, that explains things for you. If you're interested, would love to work with you. Just reach out through info@digitalwealthpartners.net. And one of our advisors will follow up with you and answer any questions that you have, schedule a time, chat with you on the phone. Bobby G, he says, Jake, you said Japan buy with capitalized. I like that they capitalized 2025. Still hope for tonight or tomorrow. I have hope for tonight or tomorrow. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not going to call it quits until we're there. A lot can change in 24 hours. Okay. So, again, I'll be on here Wednesday night. We'll run it up with you guys. And if it hasn't happened by then, I'll say I was wrong and that, I'll eat crow. Okay. But until we're through with 2024, I'm still holding steady that Yoshitaka Tao doesn't, fib. I think that maybe they'll wait till the last second, but I think they're going to pull it off. MGK, very helpful content. I'm in Washington. Interesting. And my LLC is in Wyoming. Very good. Do I need to use a specific Wyoming VPN when I do business transactions, or just New York residents? It's just going to be people in New York, unfortunately, that are going to have to deal with that. And even if you're using a VPN in New York, because of the KYC on the exchanges, you're going to have to disclose your personal details and your address or your residence. They're still going to block you, right? So it's ideal that you have a virtual office there in Wyoming that you can pay for. We can provide some people, if that's of interest, if you are in New York, that you can list as the address for the business and your personal, so that you can transact. And yeah, you would still want to use a VPN, but if you're in any other state, shouldn't be an issue. Eric, good evening. Good evening, sir. Oh, I think I've already ran this question down earlier. But pull it on down here and see if CR. Man, you hit me with another super chat. Thank you. I'll try to spend extra time on this, answer it thoroughly. He says, thoughts on the idea of retail being priced out. A lot of people are already priced out. I don't think we matter in the grand scheme of things. App, recite you and hope to work with you soon. Appreciate you, man, on the super chat and taking time out to watch this in the evening and ask good questions. I do think that retail will be priced out. I think a lot of people have already been priced out. To be able to aggregate a large amount of XRP at $2, like $100,000 gets you 50,000 XRP. Whereas you could have got 50,000 XRP for $10,000, like when it was 20 cents. So, like, it's a 10x from there. That's a big difference, right? Just 4 years ago, you could have got XRP. You could have got 50,000 XRP for $10,000, and now it takes $100,000 to get the same amount of XRP. And on the other side of price appreciation, when we do see 3 and 4 digits, it's gonna be similar to Bitcoin. Most people can't afford a Bitcoin. Like people aren't buying a whole Bitcoin unless they're extremely wealthy. And now that's come into vogue, right? There's been a lot of family offices and other private equity firms and funds and large corporations and other stuff that are buying it now at $100,000, or when it was 5 digits, high 5 digits, they were buying it, putting it on their balance sheet. But yeah, as far as when it comes to XRP, retail's like, here's the reality of this situation. You can go look at the rich list. Okay, so richlist.info. If you guys want to go check it out, our buddy Francis Bovine there on Twitter runs that for us. Grateful for him running those analytics through his validator on the XRPL. You can look at, there's 5.8, 5.9 million wallets, something like that. To be in the top 10%, you need like 3,000 XRP, a little less than 3,000 XRP, puts you in the top 10% of wallets. To be in the top 1% of wallets, you need around 60,000 XRP. Current value of that's going to be $120,000. Puts you in the top 1% of wallet holders, top 50,000 wallets, right? 0.01%, I think. Well, we can look it up here. I'll pull up XRP rich list.info. Current statistics. So to be in the top 0.01% in the top 5,801 wallets, you need at least 402,000 XRP. Most people ain't buying that much at $2 unless they got a lot of money to throw at it and just are finding out about it right now, right? Most people that have that much have been holding for a long time. I know a lot of them. So I think the majority of retail is already priced out. I was like, I told people, my barber and other people around me, at like 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents, and they threw a couple $100 at it. And they're doing okay, right? They're up a little bit from there. But I think even to get that amount of XRP, if it's $50, $100, $1,000 a piece, retail's not going to have that, right? So I think a lot of people have already been priced out, but it's going to be even greater as things continue to escalate from here. And that's unfortunate. I think this is a golden goose. I think that this will provide people money and returns beyond their wildest dreams for the rest of their life, and potentially their children's lives. As long as this financial system that we migrate to is in effect, which lasts, somewhere between the next 100 and 1,000 years, you're going to be doing extremely well if you have a decent amount of XRP. And that's going to be different for everybody, what you can, put in the asset. And I just want to say this real quick because I'm going to get whacked. I am not a financial advisor. I don't provide financial advice. It's for entertainment, educational purposes only. Please consult with your financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If you want to talk to an investment advisor, please go to digitalwealthpartners.net and they can tell you to buy more XRP. I can't do that. But yeah, I think that just holding, imagine if you had 1,000 Bitcoin right now. It was $1 at one time. It was $2 at one time. It was a long time ago. But if you had held, there was somebody that bought like $300,000 worth of Bitcoin at $100 per Bitcoin, and they moved $33 million the other day and sold, which is crazy. Good for them, Anyway, I think this is, I sat down with some of our partners in New York this year in February. I went up there for, maybe it was a little later, maybe it was March. New York, NFT NYC. It's an event for NFTs up there. We sat down and had dinner, and they're older, sharp guys, and like worked for AOL, were like executives, like sharp guys. And I, was explaining to them our thesis for the firm and the fund and how we're going to diversify and mitigate risk and all the stuff. And they were like, "Wow, this is awesome." And they were like, "What's your portfolio look like?" And I was like, "I only own XRP." And they're like, "That doesn't make any sense. You just told us all these things that you would be doing with our money to mitigate risk and downside and like hedge and make sure that things were kosher, and you're siloed in one asset. That doesn't make any sense." And I'm like, "Well, I understand where this is going to go, and it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Once in a multi-generation opportunity is probably what I should have said." But they were like, "No, we've had, once in a lifetime, what we thought were once in a lifetime opportunities 7 or 8 times in our lifetime." And I'm like, I get that. And you guys are older than me and wiser than me, and I really respect what you have to say. But for me, like a transition in a currency regime and how value is transacted across the planet, that's only going to happen once in my lifetime or my kids' lifetimes. It's like once in every 4 or 5 generations that something this cataclysmic happens and there's an opportunity like this. So literally once in a lifetime, if you're in the right assets right now and you're accumulating those, you'll have multi-generations if you do it the right way, structure things the right way and mitigate risk. And that's the other thing, I'm rambling on here, but this is important. If you make a bunch of money in these assets, I would encourage you to educate yourself a lot right now prior to price appreciation so that you understand how to not mess it up. 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 3 to 5 years because they don't understand taxes. They don't understand trusts. They don't understand insurance. They don't understand investments. You can, I'm not trying to sell you on Digital Ascension Group or Digital Family Office or Digital Wealth Partners. I built all that stuff selfishly because I didn't want to mess it up. And I've learned a lot along the way, things that I didn't know 4 years ago. I've had to learn a lot of things in order to make sure that all this works right and it's set up. But find professionals around you, wherever you are, that understand this asset class and can help you not to mess it up and make sure that on the other side of price appreciation, after you've generated your wealth, you can diversify and mitigate risk and downside and structure it in a way where the state and the government don't get their grubby hands on it. And you can pass it along to your children or foundations or other things and do a lot of good with the money that you come into. So anyway, rambling on, but hopefully that was helpful for you guys. And I do appreciate, again, the super chat. Albert says 10K is a good amount. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people that have 10,000 XRP when there's a $10,000 XRP. It's $100 million. Not going to be a whole lot of people that have that left when it reaches that value. And I don't think that's too far in the future. 3 years from now, potentially. I don't think there's going to be a ton of people that have at least 10,000 XRP left when it's 10 grand a piece. Let's see here. Requested a call with DWP. No one has contacted me yet. I need to set up a trust. Is it something you can help with? As you do the LLC, what's the cost of the trust establishment? Thank you for letting me know that. Email, well, I don't know if you can DM me on Twitter. You know what? Email again. Email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. It comes to me. I'll see it. And just put your YouTube tag in here, which is Global Tel Link, and I'll make sure that we handle it. I'm sorry that nobody's got back to you since before the holiday. I know that they've been working, so I don't know why that slipped through the cracks. We actually put in a new system the other day to make sure that we don't have this issue, because you're not the only one, unfortunately, that hasn't been responded to in a timely fashion. So I will make sure that that gets handled, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. We do set up trusts for clients. We have multiple attorneys that we work with in that capacity. Cost on that can range wildly depending on what you're looking to do. If it's a charitable remainder trust, it could be a living trust in your state. I don't recommend putting digital assets in a living trust. That's more for like family heirlooms, your home, or your vehicles, or things that you're going to use on a regular basis that you don't anticipate appreciating substantially. Those are fairly cheap, somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Most attorneys in your state can help you set those up. Those can be revocable or irrevocable. Irrevocable has some better tax benefits. We tend to set up an asset protection trust in Wyoming for the majority of our clients. It makes the most sense. Sometimes it's South Dakota, infrequently, but by far, I would say 99% of our clients have asset protection trusts in Wyoming. The attorneys that we work with have set up more asset protection trusts in Wyoming than any other attorneys in the U.S. Specific for digital assets. You could use an asset protection trust for real estate or some other things as well. But for digital assets, we have by far done the most. Cost on that trust in particular, somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000. And that gets it done right. Okay. Can you cheap out? Sure. Absolutely. You can go find another firm that will do it for less. Or do they do a good job? It's good enough. I'm not here for good enough. I'm here for best in class. And that's what we provide people. So, and that's who I've aligned myself with, for the services that we provide. And we do charge accordingly for that. So, again, you could shop it. There's a few other people that would set it up for cheaper than that, I'm sure. But I don't know that they have the proficiency with digital assets that our attorneys do. So anyway, happy to help you with that. Again, if you would just, follow up and email me, at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. I'll make sure, again, if you'll just remind me, global tel link, I'll get you handled. Let's see here. Matt, it's not Percocet, but Pesket. Sorry, Matt. Do you think the banks will do a bailout as the same time as they all go with XRP? So the price rise on XRP puts them in the green and limits in terms of assets. Not exactly the way that you're saying this, but yes, right? So if they already had XRP on their balance sheets, and all they had to do was start using it to increase the price substantially and then offset the liabilities, right? So right now liabilities are way up here and assets are down here. If you had an asset that appreciated substantially, now they're even. I do think that's how they've actually offset global debt. It's the way that I think it works. I don't think it'll be a bailout. They're not going to print a bunch of money. It's not going to be QE. They've built a mechanism by which they can start transacting value that escalates an asset's value on their balance sheet that they don't have to revalue themselves, nor do they have to print a bunch of money and increase M2 money supply or change interest rates or do all the other crazy stuff that they've done in the past as this, fugazi to manipulate things and make it sustainable in a debt-driven, Ponzi scheme. That's basically what it is. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, but not quite in the manner that you discussed. Living Legacy was nice enough to put this here in the chat. If you guys do need an LLC for your digital assets here at the end of 2024, happy to work with you in that capacity. You're just going to go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, click in the services tab, and there's a drop down for the LLC, and this is the code. Appreciate you putting this up here for people. We normally charge $3,000, but we are running a deal here at the end of the year for 50% off. So it's $1,500, and that gets you the EIN, articles of incorporation or organization, the registered agent, gets you the filing of the BOIR whenever we do have to do that. I put that on hold again. Hallelujah. gets you certificate of good standing, and it gets you the operating agreement. It's a template for a holding company for digital assets. We also do a trading company. So if you want to trade digital assets or staking or anything where you're, moving assets around frequently or using them in some capacity to generate returns and pay yourself, we can do either or. The holding company is what we normally set up for people. SEC or the NAICS code is 551112 or 551114. Anyway, it allows you to get all the tax benefits if you were to sell your digital assets, get the long-term capital gains on them, if those happen, with Trump in place. And you were able to mitigate things because you have the full breadth of the tax code to offset any of those capital gains. You can also set up an insurance policy. We use PPLI or private placement life insurance. If you want to go check that out, you can contribute those assets in kind into that policy. We're working on the loophole that XRP is a currency, and we know that it's not a security here in the US. So we can move it in there in kind and fund the policy that way. And because it's a key employee, you're a key employee of the LLC, we can make the trust the beneficiary and protect your assets. They grow tax-free inside the policy. You can borrow against the cash value at a very low interest rate and fund your lifestyle or other investments. It's a great way to do it, and I'm excited that we are really the only firm in the US that offers that for XRP in particular. You guys have good questions here. Thank you for the super chat, Benny. Let me see if I can find if you have a question down lower. Here we go. He says, what are your thoughts on possible targets for Sologenic? To be honest with you, I stopped looking at Sologenic a long time ago. And I know that's not the answer you wanted, so I'm sorry. Could it have price appreciation? It's already gone up a lot. I know people that hold Sol and they do well. All boats rise with a rising tide, right? So if XRP goes up exponentially, there's more liquidity on that network. You could see, meme coins go up. You could see Sologenic go up. You could see other things attached to that network go up as the liquidity disperses into different places, right? However, we got, they just launched an NFT marketplace after they said they were going to tokenize equities. It's just kind of sad to me to see them go that direction. They never got the broker-dealer license. They never got anything that was required to tokenize equities on the XRPL. Quorum, that launch and drop with that. Not my cup of tea. I have no idea where it could go on price. It's not something that I think is long-term sustainable at this point, personally. But I'd love to be wrong. Like I said, I know Ricky Bobby in our group holds a lot of Solana, and I hope I'm wrong for their sake, and then they make a bunch of money on it, and you do too. We do have some other ones over here on TikTok, so we're going to check those out. Jake Blink. We do a deal where it makes me stare at the camera here on the videos, and I get really good at not blinking. Let's see. Why would they want to use XRP and not just make their own coin? That is a great question. There's a lot of people that have asked this over the years, and I myself asked this question early on. I was like, well, yeah, the banks would just make their own JPM coin, right? The problem is other banks don't trust other banks after 2008. So you need a decentralized, trustworthy, agnostic system or network or protocol that they can all use where they don't have to trust the counterparty, right? And they all want to issue their own stablecoin. So why would JPM want to accept Bank of America stablecoin? They're not. They want to use their own, right? They want to hold their money in their own token. So that's why you need an intermediary asset that everybody trusts. They all run validators on the network. It's transparent. They can see those things. There's no way that a bank could issue a token that the other banks would want to use. And that's really the beauty of the XRPL, is because it allows for interoperability between siloed ecosystems where all the banks can have their own cake and eat it too. And then they can participate through a global decentralized network to be able to settle and transact value with counterparties without having to trust them. So I know I throw a lot of jargon and slang when I say those things. So hopefully that's not over people's head. But basically, after 2008, banks don't trust other banks. They don't trust what they say because everybody was bankrupt. Everybody had to get bailed out. And so they're like, all right, I can see my books. I know that I'm good. I'm okay. But I don't want to lend a whole bunch of stuff out to them or be exposed to their token or whatever else. I want something that's an intermediary that we can all trust, and we can just trust the code. We don't have to trust the other party. And that's what the XRPL is. So that's why they would adopt it, because they're just like countries. A lot of people are tired of the U.S.'s crap at this point, for lack of a better word. We've really kind of run the show for the past, really close to 100 years. And other countries are tired of it, and they've de-risked from the U.S. dollar, and they want to participate in global economics and not be sanctioned or handcuffed by the U.S. and our financial system and SWIFT. And they've got CHIPS, which is an alternative settlement system that BRICS uses. Banks are the same way. They need a decentralized ecosystem to transact and trust, separate of any counterparty risk. So, and like I said, just so that people are aware, I took a year and a half to really get sold on the XRPL and that this was going to be used and by the banks. I woke up every single day for a year and a half trying to figure out why I was wrong. And over that period of time, I asked all these questions, and they're good questions, right? I was able to come up with the answers, and I couldn't poke a hole in it. And at a certain point, I just was like, okay, this is a foregone conclusion. There's enough evidence here that even though I can only see 95% of it, I know that the other 5% is going to be in alignment with that. And so let's just go all in. Like, again, once in a multi-generation opportunity. So hopefully, I appreciate the question. Hopefully that explained it a little bit better for you and why they would choose XRP over a bank issuing its own token. How high do you think XRP is going to go within the long term? What's the long term? 50 years? 100 years? I was telling my wife I'd love to live for like another 50 years. I think I'll live at least another 50 years with medical advances and stuff. Anyway, $1 million a piece. I could see that happening. Oh no, my camera has decided that it's going to fall off here. You can still see me on TikTok though. Let me close this out. Sorry for the technical difficulties here for a second. There we go. I'll keep it going on the questions while I'm trying to get this fixed. And again, apologize for technical issues. So anything over here on TikTok still? 10 years, 20 years? Yeah, I think that, it could be maybe even $1 million in that time frame. At least 6 digits. I think 100,000 is highly likely in the next 10 to 20 years for XRP. XRP lawsuit delisting again. I know there's a lot of FUD out of there about that. Ripple has wiped the floor with the SEC. The new SEC chair that's coming in, Paul, understands the lawsuit and everything that's gone on. He's going to be done with it. Trump and everybody else, they're done with it. They've seen the corruption. I don't know if you've watched XRP Unleashed and seen, everything that went on with ETHgate and what's been put out there. It's over. And I think that there could potentially even be damages paid to XRP holders for the lawsuit by the SEC. Jimmy Valley put together the, potential valuation for XRP. And I know we got a lot of hate for that. However, I think that could be used for damages to people that were holding substantial amounts of XRP in 2020 when the lawsuit was filed. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. But I definitely don't see anybody delisting XRP again, and I do not see the lawsuit continuing on the other side of this new administration. Could be way off. I'm just some guy on the internet, okay? But that's my 2 cents on it. That documentary was a big eye-opener. Oh, no. All right. Well, You know what? We're about an hour and a half in. I don't know if my camera is gonna continue to put up with me here. Sorry for these issues again. I've been having some issues all day long with this. I got 10,000 XRP. If it just hits 4 digits, I'd be retiring in Manhattan. Yeah, I bet you would. There's gonna be a lot of people that are I don't know what the US dollar is worth on the other side of XRP becoming that valuable either. That's my only consideration on that, right? Like we talk about these really high values for XRP, and I do think there is real ROI for XRP in comparison to what the value is of the dollar on the other side of it. I do think it'll be backed by gold and things will work out. But yeah, I don't know what the relative value of XRP is on the other side of it. I do think that it'll be extremely valuable though. Stronghold SHX. I think they have an interesting product and platform. I think it's a great use case for digital assets for the payment processing, right? They're a competitor to Stripe. They use that token within that ecosystem to settle payments. They use it as a reward mechanism so that people can pay for the fees to use that network. I've emailed them and tried to get in contact with them, and nobody will email me back because we want to use them to process payments, but nobody responds. So I don't know how effective of a business they are. If you know somebody at Stronghold, if you can get them to get a hold of me, that would be great. Bullish on the token. I don't think that they're ever going to get anywhere close to 1% of the market share for like value, settling for payments like Stripe is. Stripe's like 1.5% of all retail payments settled through Stripe. Stripe could acquire them if Stripe doesn't have its own token that they issue, which I think they will. But yeah, bullish on Stronghold, and with it being on Hyperledger, I think that'll be interesting. Is XRP about to go to 10K? No. Like people, look, I'm hypey. Okay, I'm excited about actual utility of this network and price appreciation, but to see 5 digits, you're gonna need derivatives. Like it's gonna have to settle derivatives. If Codius goes live, cool, yeah, all day, 10K. I think you're gonna need some really bad things to happen for that to happen as fast as people want it to. I think 2026, 2027, yeah, 10K. But I think that's a little bit further out than, imminently. I think 3 or 4 digits overnight or in a very short period of time is possible if there is a liquidity crisis and, the domino theory plays out. Wow, this is an aggressive YouTube name. No question, just appreciate the knowledge and the content you provide. Thank you for the super chat and very funny name. People, man, with the names here on YouTube. I'm not even going to click on your name because it's so bad. I'll get another one here. Thank you for the super chat. Stephen K, he says, do you deal with Canadian clients? We do. Man, come on. Why are you being this way? I'm probably gonna have to wrap it up here in another 2 minutes or so, just because my camera's being the way it's being. We do deal with Canadian clients. I would encourage you to reach out to Aaron Grinhoss. He is our estate planner and tax expert there in Canada when it comes to digital assets, and he does a really good job with all of that. So I would recommend him. If you do want to just email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, we're happy to share his contact information with anybody from Canada if you'd like to reach out to them. He is there in Toronto. We met him in person earlier this year and really enjoyed that. Went to a tech conference there in Toronto. During a heat wave, they thought it was hot at 88 degrees. I'm from Texas, and so hot to me and hot to people in the rest of the world are two very different things. It's like Bane, like You don't know what the darkness is. I grew up in the darkness, um, except it's the heat and not the darkness. Um, let's see here. XRP to $100 in 2025 or sooner. We'll see. Oh man, yeah, it looks like my camera is done for tonight for whatever reason. I'm going to take this one last super chat, and then we're probably going to wrap it up here. So, James, thank you so much for the super chat and your patience with my technical difficulties. He says, all in. We had a meeting with Fred on the 23rd. Awesome. Carbon 2 mastermind member on the 27th. Today, submit the DWP application and LLC. Excited for the trip to the moon. Any advice for me? Thank you, Jake. Hopefully get to chat someday. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much for being part of the community and working with us and our team. Excited to have you on board and share your excitement for the future. Any advice? I'm just proud of you, man. You've been proactive. You've reached out and gone forward on things. A lot of people, I think, are going to wait until the last minute and not be able to get in. We are going to raise thresholds for who we work with on the other side of price appreciation. And yeah, just excited that you were able to get in. I would just say continue to educate yourself, prior to price appreciation, making sure that you understand, what you need to do to, execute your exit plan, whatever that might be, and how to borrow against your assets and use insurance and all the other things. And if you have any questions around any of that stuff, me or my team are happy to help you. And you can just email support@digitalwealthpartners.net with any of that. And again, super excited to have you on board. With that, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here just again, because I'm having technical difficulties. We're about an hour and a half in anyway, and I'd like to keep these digestible for people. So appreciate you guys over here on YouTube, on X, and on Twitter. As always, we do these on Monday and Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Central, Q&A, and wish you guys a wonderful new year. Please be safe. If you are going to go out and have a good time, which I hope you are, make sure that you have a designated driver or you're able to get an Uber. Please do not take any chances. There are crazy people on the road. Be careful out there, and wish you guys a safe and very fun New Year's. Hopefully we see some, fireworks in digital assets alongside that. If you do want to participate in the mastermind, you can always reach out to us through beyondbroke.com, or you can just sign up, use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1MO, for 1 free month there in the group to be able to check that out, see if it's something you're interested in. If you like it, we do participate and have weekly calls on Discord, run private investments there in that group. Again, we've got the book here. I've just moved up to the top. We did just launch this, so super excited to do that right before the end of the year here. Wealth in Numbers, if you would give that a Google. Wealth in Numbers, Jake Claver, or Wealth in Numbers, Max Avery. Drop us a review. Download the book. It is free until January 2nd on Kindle and Amazon. Yeah, all the downloads and all the reviews help us. So thank you all so much for taking time out to do that. And then, again, just wish you guys a wonderful new year and all the blessings and all the things that you've been working and fighting for in 2024. With that, we'll wrap it up. I hope you'll have a wonderful evening, and we will see y'all on the next one.